The wise men made a pilgrimage from the east to worship at the cradle of Christ, and the shepherds journeyed from field to town in search of Jesus.
She has been legally entitled to be called princess since the day she was born, not when someone decides to grant it, not when the king signs a document. From birth, automatically, under rules that have existed since 1917, and in over 20 years, she has never once used it. That is not an oversight. That is a choice, made first by her parents before she existed, and now, as she approaches the end of university and the beginning of whatever comes next, increasingly hers to make herself. But here is the thing that makes Lady Louise Windsor genuinely fascinating right now. While everyone has been debating the title she hasn't claimed, she has been quietly building something that makes the title almost secondary. Military training, a degree, a reputation for dignity under pressure, and the very real possibility of becoming the first female member of the royal family to join the British Army since 1945. The title can wait. What she's actually been doing cannot. The rule nobody changed. To understand why this is even a conversation, you need to go back to 1917. World War I. Royal families across Europe collapsing one by one. King George V, watching his cousins lose their thrones, decided the British monarchy needed to look leaner, less bloated, less vulnerable. He issued what are called letters patent, royal rules with the force of law. They specified exactly who gets to be called prince or princess, and who receives the HRH designation. The rule was straightforward. The monarch's children get it automatically. The monarch's grandchildren get it, but only through the male line. So the child of the king's son is a prince or princess. The child of the king's daughter is not. Lady Louise's father is Prince Edward, King Charles's youngest brother, Queen Elizabeth's youngest son. Under those 1917 rules, Louise was a princess the moment she was born. So why does nobody care? Color 1. The choice her parents made. When Edward married Sophie Rhys-Jones in 1999, less than 2 years after Diana's death, the palace announced that any children they had would be styled as the children of an earl, not as princes or princesses. The timing matters. Diana had lost her HRH title after her divorce, and the public reaction had been enormous. Royal titles were emotionally charged territory. Choosing not to use them for the next generation felt like the safest, most modern path. But here is the detail most people miss. A Buckingham Palace announcement is not the same thing as a formal letters patent. The 1917 legal entitlement was never revoked. It just sat there, unused. Sophie confirmed this herself in a 2020 interview, stating clearly that both Louise and her younger brother James do have their HRH titles. The family simply chose not to use them. And she added something significant. When Louise turned 18, she could decide for herself whether to claim the title of princess. Louise turned 18 in November 2021. She made no changes, but the option never went away. How she was actually raised. To understand why Louise didn't immediately reach for the title the moment she was legally able to, you need to understand what her childhood actually looked like. Edward and Sophie didn't just decide their children wouldn't use titles. They built an entire upbringing around the idea that these kids would need to function in the real world. Louise attended local schools without a visible security detail. She did Girl Guides. Before university, she worked a summer job at a garden center, about as standard a teenage experience as exists in Britain. Compare that to her cousins Beatrice and Eugenie, who grew up with the full princess treatment from birth, the title, the prefix, the recognition at every official event. Louise had none of that. And by every account, she is better off for it. The descriptions of her are consistent, confident, self-assured, grounded. At 7, she was a bridesmaid at William and Catherine's wedding and drew comments for her composure. At 18, she stood vigil by Queen Elizabeth's coffin, and the quiet dignity she showed went quietly viral. She was reportedly Prince Philip's favorite grandchild. They shared a bond over carriage driving, a sport Philip had helped popularize. After he died, she inherited his driving ponies and carriage and has competed seriously at the Royal Windsor Horse Show. Her LinkedIn page lists her career interests as military, diplomacy, or law. Not royal duties, not charitable patronages, actual professions requiring training and qualifications. She wasn't raised to wait for a title to define her. She was raised to go earn something. what she's been doing while everyone debated. In 2024, Lady Louise joined the 74th University Officer Training Corps at the University of St. Andrews. This is not a ceremonial role. The OTC is an Army Reserve unit for university students, and it involves real training, weapons handling, leadership exercises, navigation under pressure, tactical fieldwork. She holds the rank of Officer Cadet and has received genuine basic Army officer training. In November 2025, she was seen marching in full camouflage at the St. Andrews Regiment's Remembrance Day Parade. Military units marched through the town to lay a wreath at the War Memorial. Eyewitnesses described her as completely focused, maintaining professionalism throughout, never breaking rank. Sources close to the family say she genuinely enjoys the military training and is determined to serve in some capacity. Here is the historical weight of that. If Lady Louise joins the British Army after she graduates from St. Andrews in summer 2026, she would become the first female member of the royal family to serve since 1945. The last one was Princess Elizabeth, her own grandmother, who served in the Auxiliary Territorial Service during World War II. Elizabeth learned to drive and maintain military vehicles and spoke about the experience with pride for the rest of her life. Louise could be the first royal woman in over 80 years to follow that same path. There are reports she may attend the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst, where both William and Harry trained as officers. That would put her on the track toward a professional military career, earned through merit, not inherited through bloodline. And that changes everything about the title conversation. A Princess Louise who attends ribbon cuttings is one thing. A Princess Louise who completed Sandhurst, who earned her rank, who served, that is something the monarchy hasn't seen in almost a century. The HRH would feel deserved rather than simply inherited. Why the monarchy needs her, here is the practical reality that makes Louise's choices matter beyond her own life. King Charles wanted a slimmed-down monarchy, fewer working royals, lower costs, a more focused operation. The idea was reasonable. The execution has created a genuine staffing problem. Look at who is currently carrying the working royal load. Charles and Camilla, William and Catherine, Edward and Sophie, Princess Anne, who is 75 and has been the hardest working royal for decades, and a handful of royals in their 80s who cannot maintain this pace indefinitely. Prince Andrew was stripped of his duties. Harry and Meghan stepped back entirely. The Wales children are still in school. Charles has cancer. Catherine went through cancer treatment. The institution is trying to do the same volume of work. Thousands of engagements, patronages, official visits, with half the people. Royal commentators have described the Edinburgh family as the monarchy's secret weapon. No scandals, no drama, absolute loyalty to the crown. And Louise is the next generation of that family, now approaching the moment where she could step into something significant. Richard Fitzwilliams, a respected royal commentator, has described her as someone who could be important for William's future reign. When William becomes king, he will need reliable, trusted people around him. Louise has already demonstrated she can be both. The decision ahead: Louise graduates in summer 2026. After that, every choice she makes will be scrutinized because of who she is, even if she'd prefer it weren't. She can remain Lady Louise and pursue an independent career on her own terms. Military, law, diplomacy, the paths she identified herself. That would signal that the monarchy genuinely is evolving into a smaller, more modern institution. She can accept the title that has been waiting for her since birth and step into formal royal duties. That would demonstrate a commitment to the institution at exactly the moment it needs reliable people most. Or she can find the middle ground, build her military career, gradually take on responsibilities as they make sense, and let the title shift quietly over time without a formal announcement. Historian Gareth Russell has noted that King Charles is open to adjusting titles and duties as circumstances change. Louise could become a princess whenever that makes sense, not through a grand ceremony, but through a quiet evolution that matches her actual role. There is family precedent for exactly that kind of gradual shift. What makes Lady Louise Windsor genuinely interesting is not the question of whether she will claim what she is already legally entitled to. It is what the unused title represents. Choice. Real choice. Something members of this family almost never actually have. Her parents protected that space deliberately. They gave her a garden center job and Girl Guides and a normal school and the room to discover what she actually wanted before the institution came calling. And what she has discovered, a parental, is that she wants to earn something. The carriage driving, the military training, the English degree, the studied composure at a grandmother's coffin. These are things she chose. The title has been there the whole time. She has simply simply been too busy building something to stop and pick it up. Whatever she does next, and the summer of 2026 will begin to answer that. The credibility she brings to it will not come from the prefix before her name. It will come from everything she did while nobody was watching. A legal princess who has never been called one. A future soldier who might be the first royal woman to serve since the queen herself. A 22-year-old finishing her degree, while a monarchy quietly hopes she'll be willing to help carry it forward. That is Lady Louise Windsor in 2026. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think she should claim the title, or is what she's building without it more impressive? Drop your take in the comments below. If this breakdown gave you a clearer picture of one of the most quietly fascinating people in the royal family, hit that like button. And subscribe if you haven't yet. We cover the stories that don't always make the front page, but always matter. See you in the next one.